Welcome everyone. Feminism is not a new word for us. Nowadays, feminism or the word feminist had become a buzzword, and people often say, I am a feminist person. But probably this statement itself is a shallow belief in some cases. Rather, this word feminism has very powerful and complicated meaning. I used to call myself a feminist, but I got to know that I'm a feminist with a bad habits. In a nutshell, I am a shallow feminist. There are several habits that may dominate women's everyday lives, despite their education and financial status. These behaviors may seem harmless, but each one has enormous impact. People assert that young women today are modern and are very different from the past generations. Sometimes it seemed that only their clothes had changed. Over and over, I would shake my head in disbelief that yet another smart and smartly dressed woman, an artist, a business manager, a financial analyst, a professor, a dentist, an engineer, a lawyer, a researcher, a scientist, a teacher, an educated stay at home mom, was so unsure of herself. Or that she sounded after the obligatory gender equality claims and sometimes passionate lecture like her mom would have sounded 30 or 40 years ago. There is a wide gap between our intellectual beliefs and our actual behavior. The power of cultural habits, emotions, and morality over education and the rational intellect. It is about the all pervasive cultural indoctrination that starts with childhood and prepares women to be deleted and then enrolls women to delete themselves as well as other women, all without their conscious awareness. In addition, it blames men without whose participation change in gender relations cannot happen. We need new ideas. The same culture that leads to violence against women also leads to fewer women in technology and leadership positions. It leads to talented young women being locked up at home for their own safety. It leads to educated women saying they are afraid to speak up. It leads to the seemingly harmless behavior of women waiting for men to speak first while they listen. It leads to women feeling a bolt of raw fear when they see a group of men walking towards them. Fear traumatizes, fear truncates, fear drains life. Women's fears keep society stable. It serves society, but it costs women. Our culture trains women not to exist. Being a woman is itself a taboo. Not allowed invisibility is just one manifestation of this cultural training. One way of ensuring that women do not exist is to kill them. A safer and less crude way is to train women to disappear. This helps explain the hundreds of ordinary everyday behaviors, proverbs, and admonishments that are part of a cultural morass that sucks us all into perpetuate a culture of non-existence for women. The culture of non existence is kept in place generations after generation because nobody talks about it. It is nameless cultural secret. It is so unpalatable that it is disguised and buried in the cultural morass. Otherwise, women would surely object. Instead, what we see is hundreds of cultural practices that we learn so naturally growing up that hundreds of young women say this is normal. Why is it normal for young girls not to tell anyone that they have been sexually molested, or for a girl not to be kick-ass strong, or for women not to share her opinions in front of men? The culture of non existence get locked into clusters of behaviors that women and men absorbs through training. In isolation, this behavior seems harmless, inoffensive, sweet, and even morally virtuous. But in combination, they destroy, they kill softly. These clusters of behaviors observed and repeated become the habits that define a good woman and good man. Girls are trained in 7 cultural habits of non existence. These are: deny the body, be quiet, please others, deny your sexuality, isolate yourself, have no individual identity, and be dependent. It is deep training in these habits that makes so many women feminist in belief but not in behavior, feminist with bad habits. These habits are not personal, but each woman thinks she is alone, she is the only one, and so she hides. When 10 women are apologetic, it may be personal. But when hundreds and thousands of women are constantly afraid and apologetic, it is no longer personal. It is systemic. It has to do with the lack of power of a group that is not supposed to exist. When women can't speak up, blame themselves, despair, and collapse and repeat the behavior the next time, it serves cultural expectations. An unequal culture survives on collapsed women. It is political strategy. This collective problem cannot be solved through the escapes of individual women. It takes collective action, working together to change unequal cultural, economic, and political systems. If you want more light on this topic, I would suggest a book by Deepa Narayan, which is Chup, Breaking the Silence About India's Women.